So anybody ever here take, well, anybody in here seen a rainbow? Oh yeah. One of the things that, the phenomenon that creates a rainbow, actually Newton used a prism, which is just a kind of a cool looking piece of glass, yeah, cool shape of glass. And he took light from the sun and made the rainbow, you know. So this actually is light from the sun. Can you see the rainbow there? Did you guys remember, or I don't know, have you guys ever been told the colors of the rainbow? See if you say Roy, yellow, okay. G, it's like a name. Like this is his first name, Roy. G is his middle initial. And what goes the 3 letters after that? Biv. You guys got it. Blue, indigo, violet. So those are the colors of the rainbow. Roy, G, Biv. Okay? Yeah. Wow. So this is actually sunlight that a long time ago we did Newton's thing with the prism and split it. But what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? What are the blemishes? You guys see something? Is it a continuous rainbow? No, it's got little breaks in it. Yeah, you can kind of see those little breaks. Okay, so you people who like to do the whole like forensic, it's that sort of stuff. Does it look kind of like DNA to you? Yeah. That's what it looks like to me. Like kind of the breaks on DNA. So you're like, you can map to a certain DNA strand, and this actually, it's very similar. Those breaks, if you know what you're looking at, mean something. Those breaks, I think it was Fraunhofer, actually took Newton's rainbow and looked at it closely, and you can see those breaks in there. It tells us chemical composition of, guess what? The sun. Is that not cool or what? Okay, those are called spectral lines. I'll be talking about those hopefully on Wednesday. All right. So we're kind of building up to telescopes a little bit. One of the things we're going to talk about is telescopes. Now, the thing about telescopes is we're so used to actually, there's so many cool things about telescopes. One of the things telescopes do is they gather light, kind of focus light to a point, and they concentrate the light, okay, the visible light, so we can see the moon kind of close up, okay? But when we do that, we're actually looking at visible light that's coming from the moon. Now, I'm here to tell you that, I don't know how many of you guys can see this, okay? But what's this word right here? Light. Light, very good. And light is this much. These are all energies. This slide says something about electromagnetic radiation. You can take the word radiation and put energy if you want to. Electromagnetic energy. Electromagnetic radiation energy. Okay? Light is an energy. Okay? This says ultraviolet. Then we have X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays. Okay? And they're all a family. That's why I brought this poster. These are all a family of energies called electromagnetic radiation. Light. Now here's one thing. Have you ever I was thinking about this. So when we turn on a light, let's take a naked, see that I have a naked light bulb here. Okay, so there's no shade on or anything. I plug it in and it glows, okay? What if I were to take a Bunsen burner or some sort of candle and I were to light a flame? Okay, we have a flame here and we have a bulb here. They're both emitting light, but do they look kind of different? The characteristics of them are different. As it turns out, they just are different. If you were to analyze the radiation, it's kind of got different amounts of different colors, okay? So light is not just light. It's kind of complicated, yes. When you go to Lowe's and you go to the light bulb section, you can pick out a light bulb and it will actually kind of analyze the light that's coming from it. Okay, so light is what we say different energies, different wavelengths. Things that we call light right here actually is kind of broken up into Roy G. Biv. Red is a different energy. Orange is a different energy. Yellow's a different energy. These are all different energies. But they're all kind of balled up into light.
How are we supposed to think of light? Is it like a particle or like an energy or a wave?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. There's the dual nature of light, and I'll kind of hit that a little bit. It's like particle, photon, and it's energy because of its wave-like properties. So kind of hit on that a little bit. But So when I say electromagnetic radiation, okay, this is my point, I guess. All right. So the sun gives us light. Do you think the sun gives us any other energy? Yeah. You know, because I actually mentioned these up here on the poster are more energetic. These are harmful. Clear at the top is cosmic rays. They'll kill you. Gamma rays, that'll kill you too much. Okay. The good thing about, even though the sun is oozing this out in our direction, what do you think? What's this? This protects us actually from the sun's energy. The Earth's atmosphere. Yep. The Earth's atmosphere blocks a lot of that. The sun is also sending these long waves too. There's the cool, awesome different types of astronomy, not just the visible ones, but actually we can change what we're looking at. We can look at infrared, we can look at microwaves, we can look at radio waves, we can look at that energy coming from distant objects and make pictures out of them. That's so cool. So just to kind of get an idea of the family, this is a family, and I kind of call them cousins. So light has a cousin called ultraviolet, another cousin is, you know, they're all cousins. Yeah. They all travel at the same speed, okay? And like Ty was saying up here, they actually travel in waves, which makes them kind of energy-like, but they also have this particulate nature, a little ball of energy we call a photon. So they kind of have both of those things going on. All right. So I'm going to try to distinguish the cousins here. We're going to try to break them out. Like, what's different between light and gamma rays? Okay, they're both travel at the speed of light. They travel throughout the same through space. Okay, by the way, you saw on what's the variable for the speed of light? What symbol do we use?
C.
Letter C, exactly. Letter C for the speed of light. Yep. So I don't have one here, but this is kind of saying if I could connect a rope to the wall, I could go like this. You'd kind of see as I went up and down, it would make a wave. Okay. And so, and some of this kind of boggles my mind, all of these cousins have that sort of going on, okay? But they also kind of have a particulate nature to them, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So all the waves, whether it's talking about electromagnetic radiation, okay, or whether it's talking about any other sort of wave, we talk about waves having a wavelength. And all that means is literally in space, so it's kind of usually meters or centimeters or millimeters or something, okay? How long does it take to come back to the same point? Now, waves have crests and they have troughs, okay? So you could say, if I'm going to start at a crest, okay, what's the distance between two crests? That's a wave, okay? And so that is one thing that separates all the cousins, wavelengths. Now, the symbol for wavelength is actually this upside down looking V. So I think that might have been one of the things I wanted you to get on this slide. Wavelengths look like this. It's the Greek letter lambda, and the way I draw it is to kind of draw one slanty line, okay, kind of like this. That's one slanty line, and do another line, and that's wavelength. And again, it's a distance. And some of these might surprise you, how long the repeating unit or how short the repeating unit is for these cousins.
So when light moves, it doesn't actually go in a straight line.
This is so cool, and you might chase this down, or I might post something on Twitter, but polarized sunglasses, these aren't sunglasses, but they're transition lenses. Yeah, but polarized sunglasses, what they do is actually they're kind of like slits, and they allow only one direction of light in. So if you break your sunglasses, I don't encourage this, but if you break your sunglasses, if you put them onto each other and turn one a 90-degree angle, you're actually gonna, it totally, like if you take it, it totally blocks all the light out. Because here it's letting, it's like a picket fence, and here it's not letting any light in. I'll try to remember to bring some. Okay, but it is definitely directional. So cool. Yeah, I'll try to remember to bring some. It is awesome. Okay, so wavelength is different between the cousins. I'm going to try to convince you of that. Another thing about wavelength, and this has to do with the idea that the energy is passing through space, is frequency. And here's what I think about frequency. I basically say, I'm going to stand here, okay? I'm like a goal, I'm a counter, okay? And I'm going to count the number of crests, for instance. This whole thing is moving. I'm going to count crests that pass me. Crest, 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 okay? So I'm counting full wavelengths that pass me. So frequency is in wavelengths per second. I know you're like, just 1001, how many did it get past me? That's how that goes. Okay, frequency is in per second. So you've heard the word hertz before, HZ for hertz. Okay, hertz is per second. That's a frequency. How many cycles can pass you in 1 second? All right. That's kind of a weird one. So I think we're going to have time yet to kind of talk about these cousins and how they differ by wavelength and by their cycles per second. Cycles to pass one standing place per second. Now this is kind of, now what is C? What did you tell me?
Speed of light.
Speed of light.
C is the speed of light, yep. And do they all travel at the speed of light? Yeah. Do they all have the same wavelength? Mm-mm. Now catch this, okay. Let's go ahead and look at something that has a long wavelength, okay? And I'm going to count the frequency. I'm going to stand here. It's got a long wavelength. I'm going to count the frequency. So do you think that in a second we're going to have a lot of cycles pass me or not very many?
Not very.
Not very many, exactly. As wavelength increases, okay, frequency decreases. Okay, increase, decrease. Okay, yeah. What if they're nice and little short and I'm going to stand here? How many do you think? A lot. I made my wavelength small and my frequency went up, yeah. And there's a lot of things in kind of science that kind of do this, you know. That's what we call an inverse or backwards relationship, okay? Now, the cool thing is you could pick any cousin, and if you were to take its wavelength times its frequency, you'd get the same constant. That's so cool. And that's not an accident. That's just kind of... For those of you who are in kind of, if you do science problems using like the units, make sure the units work, check this out. All right. So I'm not going to put any numbers in there, but I'm just going to say C, speed of light. Okay, what would the units for wavelength be? Meters. I'm liking meters. I'm going to go ahead and put that meters. Put meters there. And what were the units of frequency? Hertz or also per second. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and if I take the meters times per second, I actually get meters per second is units of the speed of light, which is great. I always butch this. It's, I think, 186,000, I think. I should know that. Meters per second in a vacuum.
Which the light is affected by?
Yes, light is affected by medium. It actually has different what we call refractive indices. So in a diamond, light travels pretty slow, and it kind of makes the cool effect that we like in a diamond. So in air, light is not traveling 186,000 miles per second here. Okay, it's slowed down. But in a vacuum.
Got the air to deal with.
Yep, yep. All right, love those cousins. So do you see where this actually is like my poster? Okay, but it's not, it's horizontal, not vertical. Okay, so these are the cousins. Now on your important to the class and important to your Unit 2 exam, you're going to kind of want to familiarize yourself with the cousins. Okay, and they go from, this is on the left is the highest energy and the right is the lowest energy. So I'm going to put high E for energy. I'll put low E for energy. But is this not cool? I mean, our eyes, I just think anatomy and physiology and biology is just amazing. That we respond to visible light. You know?
I work in the eye doctor office.
No way.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
That's interesting. Yeah.
that we can, and if you're like me, have you ever said, okay, so that's a blue shirt, and do we all see it as the same kind of blue, you know, like, is your green the same as my green? So, I don't know, it could be different. So anyway, but my point is that light is only just a tiny sliver of all those other energies. And like I said before, we actually have telescopes that are selected for infrared, microwave, radio, X-rays, gamma rays. The more energetic, it's kind of hard to capture those photons and kind of concentrate them and make an image out of them, but it can be done. Wavelength. This is where I thought that you might find this interesting. The repeating unit of a radio wave kind of goes about the size of a football field, okay, from crest to crest. Is that not cool? I know. Baseball, microwaves, animal cell, infrared. By the way, I'm hoping you can kind of, let's see, how do I do this? So like if you're in the Army and you're hunting bad guys at night, what do you put on?
Night vision.
Night vision goggles, exactly. And sometimes those night vision goggles are called infrared. They're heat seeking. So infrared actually is thermal. Infrared is heat, is thermal energy. So I'm going to put heat up there for infrared. Kind of get you thinking about that. Okay. Down here, a wavelength, you know, the size of a hydrogen atom, pretty darn small. Okay. So if these have big wavelengths, okay, what do we say about the frequency? It goes down, exactly. These would have big wavelengths, low frequencies. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, now, we talked a little bit about powers of 10. Somebody tell me, and it's in, might be units of meters. Okay, oh, tell me, so this is big. What's 10 to the 6th power? What does that mean?
10 times 10 times 10.
Yes, I think we're on the same page. I think this works. I look at the 6 and I put 6 zeros after it. Okay, so that's still quite a bit. That's that number, what is that? 1 million? 1 million, I do too. 1 million per second. Okay, that's what that means. 1 million per second. Which seems like a lot.
How could they even, what?
1 million. But check this out. Oh my gosh. What about this one over here? 10 to the 20th.
10 times 10
Right.
times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10.
We get the idea, Jay. I'll put 20 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Per second.
Yeah.
Serious. So again, the wavelength went down, the frequency went up. That's amazing.
How can they detect that?
What's that?
How do we,
He's asking, how do we even count that? Well, I know, like in the lab, in chemistry, sometimes if we can't count an individual, we'll count 100, and we'll see how long it takes. You know what I mean? And then, so 100 per so many seconds, and then scale it down to 1 per so many. Wait. So many cycles per, I see, no. We might go for 100 seconds. We might go for 100 seconds, see how many cycles we get, and then divide that by 100 to get cycles per 1 second. So anyway. So here we have kind of on Earth, these are things that ooze that cousin. So they're kind of obvious. People, how do they ooze infrared? Body heat, yep. Exactly. Light bulb from visible light. Okay. But more importantly, these are things in outer space and we'll be talking about these celestial objects. And this means, like, for instance, if you are interested in radio galaxies, okay, the cool thing about radio galaxies is they're invisible. They're invisible to light, but they ooze radio wave. They ooze this cousin. So you're going to want to look in radio wavelengths to make an image. So we're going to actually looking at some photos that weren't taken in visible light. So yeah. Oh, cool. Well, let's kind of finish this thought a little bit. So this is an example of a wavelength with an example of an energy with a 1 centimeter wavelength, and the frequency is 30 gigahertz. What's the difference between, I'll call the first one A, the second one B. What's the difference? What happened to the wavelength? It got shorter. What happened to the frequency? It increased, yep. Went down, wavelength increased, okay? Do you see where if we multiply wavelength times frequency, we still get a value of 30?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 times 30 versus 1/2 times 60. What about C? What happened to the wavelength? Wavelength got shorter yet, and then what happened to the frequency? It went up, exactly. You guys got it. And then I just kind of remind you that all of these cousins are traveling at the speed traveling at the same speed. For any cousin, you can take their wavelength lambda times their frequency f, and you'll get the speed of light. So that's a good place to stop. We'll pick it up here on Wednesday.